to talk about 2026 because I'm starting to think the universe broke. Like someone spilled coffee on the simulation and now anything can happen. Indiana went 16-0 and won a national championship. Sam Darnold, I'm seeing Ghost Darnold, has a Super Bowl ring. The Knicks ended a 53-year drought. The Carolina Hurricanes finally won after 2 decades of heartbreak. Arsenal, across the pond, won the Premier League after 22 years. And now, the U.S. men's national team just won 4-1 over Paraguay in the World Cup opener. So today, we're ranking the most improbable things that have happened in sports in 2026. And then we're going to ask the question that no one seems willing to answer. Is the U.S. men's national team winning the World Cup that big of a long shot? Spoiler, mathematically, it's not. Before we get into the rankings, I need to establish something pretty important. Odds makers are not stupid. These people whose entire job, literally their livelihood, is to correctly predict the probability of things happening in sports. And they get it right a lot. So when I tell you what the odds were for some of these things before the season started, know that they were made by professionals who have built huge buildings in Las Vegas. At number 5, Arsenal FC. 22 years since the last time they won the Premier League. The last time Arsenal won the trophy, Facebook didn't exist. The iPhone wasn't out yet, and Shrek 2 was in theaters. But here's why it's number 5. Arsenal were the co-favorites going into this season. They finished runner-up 3 years in a row. Best defense in the league, only 26 goals all season, and they clinched it without even winning. Man City drew with Bournemouth, and the math just sort of worked itself out. This is a great team that finally closed the deal. 22-year drought, absolutely emotional, but the analytics saw it coming, and that's why it's last. At number 4, the Carolina Hurricanes. Now look, the Hurricanes were actually one of the preseason favorites as well to win the Stanley Cup this year. They were somewhere in the plus 750 to plus 950 range. So why are they on the list? Because as Carolina Hurricane fans know, being the favorites and actually finishing it isn't as easy as it sounds. And Carolina was the king of not finishing. 2019 swept out of the Eastern Conference Finals. 2023 Eastern Conference Finals, gone again. 2025 Eastern Conference Finals, you guessed it, again. 3 times, same round, same result. At some point, perennial contender just sounds like a nice way to say they can't get it done. But this year, it's different. The Carolina Hurricanes win in the Eastern Conference Finals, matched up against Vegas in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they finally get it done. At number 3, the New York Knicks. 53 years. The Knicks have not won a title since 1973. Richard Nixon was president. Led Zeppelin was still a band, and the internet didn't even exist. This year, they beat the San Antonio Spurs in 5 games. Jalen Brunson dropped 45 points in the clincher, breaking Willis Reed's franchise record for points in a finals game that has stood since 1970. But Game 4 is the moment that defines this entire run. The Knicks are down 29 points in the second half of an NBA Finals game. At that point, you're done. Everyone goes home. And they came all the way back and won on a tip by OG Anunoby with 1.2 seconds. 1.2. So why is this number 3 and not higher? Because structurally, the Knicks were a top 3 seed going into the playoffs. The NBA's new CBA rules have created 8 different champions in 8 years. The New York Knicks were a well-built team that peaked at the right time. The drought ending is extraordinary. That comeback is one of the greatest in NBA Finals history. But the math wasn't totally against them from the start. I need you to remember this clip. October 2019, Sam Darnold, New York Jets. The Patriots beating them on Monday Night Football 33-0. And Sam Darnold, on a live microphone, says,
"Seeing ghosts."
Becomes a meme, a punchline. Then he goes to the Panthers. Didn't work. He went to the 49ers as a backup for Brock Purdy. Then the Vikings give him a 1-year, $10 million deal, and he goes 14-3. In Minnesota, in one of the most baffling front office moves in recent history, lets him walk. They give the job to rookie J.J. McCarthy. They said, "Thanks, Sam. We're good." Sam Darnold signed with the Seattle Seahawks. Went 14-3. Again, won the NFC Championship, throwing for 346 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Rams. The same team that had sacked him 9 times and humiliated him in the playoffs the year prior. Then, the Seahawks win the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl over that same Patriots team that was making him see ghosts. Oh yeah, that Vikings general manager, he was fired.
We continue to follow breaking news out of the NFL, where the Vikings have fired general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah.
He publicly said he spent nights staring at the ceiling.
You know, you spend a lot of those nights, obviously, you know, you're up in these decisions and they're uncertain, and
he did not make the right call. Now, analytically, this is number 2 and not number 1, because Seattle was a well-constructed team around him. Mike McDonald's defense was historic. Darnold threw for 202 yards in the Super Bowl. He managed the game. This system helped carry him. Number 1 needed no system to explain it. 2 years ago, Indiana went 3-9. 3 wins. Before this season, Indiana had the most losses in FBS history, 715, more losses than any program in college football. Their last Big Ten title was in 1967. Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback, was a first-time Heisman Trophy winner in program history. First time. The odds before the season, BetMGM had them 150-1. FanDuel had them at 100-1. The year before that, they were 2,000-1. In math terms, 151 means 0.66% implied probability. That's less than 1%. They went 16-0. They beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl by 35 points. They beat Oregon in the Peach Bowl by 34 points. Then they win the national championship over Miami, 27-21. Mendoza threw 41 touchdowns, won the Heisman, and got drafted first overall. Put this in historical context. The 1999 Kurt Warner-led Rams, from arena football to the NFL, was 150-1 to win the Super Bowl going into the season. Indiana matches that in a sport that historically is one of the hardest in America to win as the underdog, because recruiting and resources dominate everything. And then the transfer portal and one man changed all of that.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Coach Curt Cignetti used the transfer portal to build a championship roster in just 2 years. Indiana went from 3-9 and the most losing program in the history of college football to 16-0 in the national champion. That is the most improbable thing to happen in sports, and it's not close. After Indiana winning the championship at 150-1, after Sam I'm Seeing Ghost Darnold win a Super Bowl ring, the Knicks ending a 53-year drought, and the Carolina Hurricanes finally getting over the hump, I have to ask, can the U.S. men's national team win a World Cup? Here's the numbers that should stop you cold. Going into the tournament, oddsmakers believe it is more likely that the U.S. wins the World Cup than it was for Indiana to win the national championship last season. And Indiana went 16-0. This national team just opened with a 4-1 victory over Paraguay. The U.S. had never scored 4 goals in a single World Cup match in the modern era. In the entire 2022 Qatar tournament, they scored 2 goals across the whole group stage. In one game in 2026, they scored 4. Balogun scored twice in the first half, and now his odds match Mbappe and Harry Kane for the Golden Boot Award. And honestly, the tactical case holds up. Pochettino has built a defensive counterattacking structure, compact, low risk, designed to win tight games in a single elimination tournament. Sound familiar? That's exactly what Mike McDonald did with Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. You don't need to be the most talented team. You need a system that limits chances and let hot players finish. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I'll tell you this. In January of 2023, if you had told me Indiana was going to win the national championship after going undefeated, I would have laughed. So if in July, the U.S. men's national team is lifting a World Cup trophy, no one should be laughing. It's 2026. 6 stories. 6 droughts broken or nearly broken. 1 still in progress. The most improbable sports year anyone has ever seen. And it's not even done yet. Drop in the comments. Who do you think was the most improbable? And do you think that the U.S. men's national team has a chance to win the World Cup? Kirkwood and Dunn. Subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you for the next one.